Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Metal Cast. It has been a long weekend, but in the best way possible. Um, as I get the banner up, there we go. Um, Friday night, as soon as got done from work, ran home, packed a Pelican case, drove 2+ hours up north to the middle of nowhere, and then got some night shooting in. Everyone's under nods. It's been a long time since I did that. It was an absolute experience. It was amazing. Couldn't have asked for anything more. And it just reminds you how much of a superpower it is to shoot in the pitch black uh, of night. Did it with three of the fellas, just posted a little short reel, tagged them all as collaborators as well. A lot more footage, a lot more pictures from that night. But if you can, if you're invited out to someone's property or a class or something to do night shooting, it is an experience like none other, and it is worth the time investment and the hassle that it might be to pack all your shit, cram into a car with three of your boys, and drive to the middle of nowhere. But it is well worth it, and it's humbling as well. You have to relearn all of the fundamentals that you learned while shooting a rifle, and as basic as they seem and as they are to many of us now, that's like second nature. Understanding, grip, stance, vision, and whatnot. You have to relearn all of those because now you are managing this thing on your head, a few inches in front of your eyes, that is sort of a portal, if you will, allowing you to see in a completely foreign environment. And you're so focused on that, seeing through these windows in front of your eyes, that your focus and your attention that was second nature, as it relates to your relationship with the rifle in your hands, sort of just goes out the window. And you have to slow it down, break it down for yourself again, and relearn that. But it was very fun. It was very cool, and something that we are planning on doing once a month, at least once a month in the summer, now that we have the means to do so. And there's a place to stay up there as well. So that's super cool. Again, night vision, superpower. If you have the means to afford it and use it, absolutely do, I say. Um, do so responsibly. I think I've shared my feedback I'd give to myself. I jumped all in when I got a helmet. I ended up buying duals. Um, it's a solid unit. They're high quality. They're great. I love them. However, if I could go back and do it again, I would tell myself to get, it's a PVS 14 to start, just because of the frequency in which the duals are used. It's very cool. It's cool to have them, but again, it's a very large investment. And getting started and jumping in, duals may not have been the best move. Maybe I would have upgraded to duals. Maybe I would have thrown a thermal on the other side and rocked just a PVS 14 on the other. I don't know. But looking back on it, I personally would not have jumped right into duels. So now I'm starting to play a little catch up, I think, with myself, and forcing myself to use them a little bit more. But still, very cool, very fun. And it makes you just smile. It makes you laugh. So get out there and do that if you have the means to do so. Then I said long weekend, and then drove back up the following morning bright and early, supported some friends who were performing last night, so out late again. So forgive me if I feel tired, if I stumble over my words, if I cannot keep a train of thought, and if this is a bit of a shorter episode. JFK files are out, thousands and thousands of pages to sift through, and there's been zero attention, it seems, like from anyone. And that's a little discouraging, but maybe that also means that there's nothing there. I have a hard time believing that, but maybe that's just the reality of the matter. I will say it is odd the number of times that the state of Israel is mentioned in the JFK files. Um, and if that's not strange to you, I don't know if I can help you sort of bring that to light, but I thought that was very strange. The number of times Israel was mentioned in those. That's all I'll say about that. Another quick headline that came out: it appears that Whoopi Goldberg has been receiving or has received $6 million in your hard-earned taxpayer money to promote diversity, equity, inclusion on The View. Now, regardless of your stance on any of that, regardless of your stance on Doge, I'm not too keen, nor would I be too keen to learn that any news hosts, if you can call her a news host, any person I see on TV should be receiving my money or money that should be going towards things in my community, infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever you want to say about that, or if you think about that, I'm seeing first reply in the chat. Whoopi Goldberg spark some debate. Love it. Fuck them. Don't want to get into that thought. Sig talked about Sig in last episode, and as I think I kicked off the topic, I mentioned something about not falling into the trap of worshiping a brand, worshiping a person, making that thing your idol. And I had an interaction at work that was just beyond infuriating. There's a chat at work for like a subculture of individuals, enthusiasts of a particular hobby. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm beating around the bush. It's like a motorcycle like sub chat at work. A few guys at the ride in. Some are more serious than others. Some are really casual. But it was organized and sort of held together by this real special Harley owner, and he's fallen into the archetype Harley owner that is leaning fully into the sort of like the Mexican culture side of Harley. He's got I think it's a Road King, or not, it's a Road King. It's not an ultra classic. He's got a Road King. It is completely blacked out, which is pretty cool. But like he's got the massive ape hangers on it, like the fishtail exhaust pipes, and he always wears, bandana around the head, flannel buttoned up all the way. Dude is not Mexican whatsoever. Name, appearance, nothing is Hispanic about this man in any way, shape, or form. And he's over 30K into this bike. This is not a high performance bike, but he's putting, forced induction on it. He doesn't do any of the work himself. He takes it to probably like what's perceived to be the nicest shop or dealership around and just spends his money. And he really basically created this chat for himself to show everyone how great he is and how great his bike is and how much money he has that he's putting into this bike. But anyways, to move this story along, we're in the chat and someone's talking about riding pants. Somebody wants like riding denim, preferably Kevlar lined, with the ability to insert like hard armor in the knees, maybe the hips, the tailbone, and whatnot. This individual immediately recommends Tobacco Motorwear, and Tobacco's a well-known brand, a brand that I've seen before, a brand that I haven't bought anything from because I can't justify spending over $300 for a pair of jeans, especially when other riding jeans and pants that have been on the market and are established brands and are known to be safe and high quality float somewhere around $99 to $150, maybe $200 still. At least you're saving $100 going to like any other company. I'm not saying Tobacco is not a great company. I'm not saying that they're not, American made, and that's not great to support that. If you can, you have the means to do so, go right ahead. But immediately, as you could probably imagine, Captain Dickwad jumps in and says, Tobacco Motorwear, nothing. This is about safety. There's really no debate. And I was like, well, hold up. Their diminishing returns are a thing. We know that. I've talked about that. But at the same time, I also understand his point of saying when it comes to safety, there's really no debate. We talk about it all the time with like tourniquets, with your weapon light, things that are going on tools of death or, tools that you use to save a life. You want something that's reliable, something that you can trust with your life. I get that. I understand that. However, I know we know a lot of people who are shilling risers for obscene amounts of money. We know a lot of people who are shilling, let's think. I really don't want to do this, especially with who is or who was in the chat. Cry. I really do hate to do this. I think cry pants are a bit of a sham, only because there's no reason for them to be that expensive. The material involved, the process involved, but being where they are, how they're positioned, they charge that price. Same with Tobacco Motorwear, I suppose. But that's sort of the strain that I was going, and I was sort of providing alternatives. We were going back and forth, and we then went outside of the realm of arguing on fact and objectivity about the pants, mind you, that grown men are debating and going to be wearing. And now we're just defending decisions that he made. He refused to give an inch. It was not about helping anyone who was looking into getting adequate riding gear, who was getting into motorcycling, what was best for them at the time. It was no consideration of budget, no consideration of how long they've been in it or what they're looking to do. It was just, you buy these because these are the best of the best, and this is what I did. It's the same people or this isn't everyone who has kids, mind you, but it's the same people who have kids who tell other people they need to have kids to help justify their life choices. And I think we see a lot of that with a lot of the SIG coping and seething. A lot of that's coming from SIG, mind you, sure. But I think we all may know a SIG owner who is not going to budge or not really going to give an inch, and that may be because they're not in the 2% of pistols that are going to blow their left testicle off at a random stoplight. We don't have any in our group. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I'm not talking about anyone in our group, but I think we all know and have seen those SIG owners online who have their head in the sand, feet in the mud, and aren't going to budge an inch about that. Mind you, this is also a very large individual. This man, and this is sort of me taking a step back, this man would, despite investing the tens of thousands of dollars he's putting into his bike to make it faster, he could just buy a gym membership for $10 a month, and then make that horsepower gain up and weight reduction. He's got at least a spare tire to shed, as far as I can tell, just by walking past him at work. That's all I'll say about that. But just a field study, an example in the real world of why you do not identify with your investments, with your purchases, because it's not about doing what's best for you or for people around you. It's simply a cult. You are simply just defending your beliefs for the sake of defending your beliefs because you identify with them. So I thought that was stupid. Thank you for continuing to make Harley riders look gay and retarded. I do, and this is also coming from a guy who wears zero protective gear except for gloves and a helmet. So take that with a grain of salt. I am retarded in that sense. But my opinion is I'm likely going to die. If I go down, I am most likely going to die. But I'm going to look good, or at least think I look good doing it. So that's where that's coming from. And I think we get into some more serious topics here. Oh, fucked up my back. Genuinely think it was from yakking over the toilet a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago now. Food poisoning, flu. I don't know what I had, but for 48 hours straight, I was puking and shitting my brains out nonstop. I genuinely think I threw my back out or did something awful to my lower back. So I have been walking around like a 100-year-old, heating it, stretching it, going to chiropractors, massage therapists, working to get a stand-up desk at work through the ADA. And let me tell you what, if you want one more feather in your cap, one more example of how doing anything through the government or any sort of bureaucratic system is just full of redundancies and just stupidity. You could just tell the entire system was designed by people who have never done anything in their life. So there's a process, thank God there's a process, to get a free stand-up desk, essentially, through my work. However, it is by leaning on the American Disabilities Act. So I reach out to HR at work. They say, no problem. We will set up a meeting today or tomorrow with an accommodation specialist. This is a real administrative role at a company, an accommodations specialist. And it's not just one. We at least have two. I know we have two because the next day after I asked to have that meeting set up, I got a meeting invite for not that day, not the following day, but 5 days in the future to talk with not one, but two accommodation specialists. Mind you, this is where getting up and out of a chair, bending over to tie my shoes, even leaning over to wash my hands at the sink is excruciating. I am miserable all day at work. The only thing that feels good is to stand up or lay down. And obviously I can't lay down at work. And if I cannot have to buy my own standing desk or standing desk topper or converter, I can get one through work because I have them in a warehouse somewhere. Cool. I'm going to do that. So it's 5 days in the future. No problem. This sucks, but I have an IR heating pad I got plugged in. It's making things bearable. So I send them an email. I'm like, hey, I see this is far out, and there's a weekend sort of in between now and the meeting. I would love to knock some things out over the weekend in my free time. If I need a doctor's note, if there's paperwork I can complete or at least get a jump start on, I would like to do that now so as to avoid any further holdups, seeing as we're now meeting next week. Hey, they reply, we can't do that. The law requires us to meet with you in person. To which I then reply, as respectfully as possible without calling them useless idiots who are just administrators who need to feel important in some way in their meaningless life on this earth. But I say, I understand completely. Would it be possible, again, to avoid further delays, considering I need a heating pad at my desk just to get through the day, to tell me now what I need and what I can start working on, and then tell me again in person, basically reiterating it to make sure the ducks are in a row. That way, you could still check your stupid little box, and I can get that much closer to the end of this, what I can already tell is going to be very long, very winding, perilous road of getting a stand-up desk, because God forbid the the massively rich, publicly traded, billions of dollar company let the wrong people stand up at work. Um, so that's where I'm at with that. Haven't had the meeting yet. Back is progressively getting better, slowly but surely. Sitting is undoing any bit of progress, though, that I can inch out by stretching, by heating it, by getting a good night's rest. Sitting, for whatever reason, is just killing it. And it's a strange feeling. It's like from the tailbone to sort of my lower back and hips included. It all feels like it's bound together, like it's one piece. And the pain is just very stiff. It's very painful to sit, again, to bend over, to sort of hinge at the waist. It's all very terrible and awful. But we're getting better inch by inch. I was suggested to, what is it, acupuncture? And that's basically the last thing I have to try other than just straight up physical therapy. I may try acupuncture for shits and giggles, but that's sort of that woo woo stuff, that we'd be dabbling with them. So there's my personal interaction with more government bureaucracy that I thought I would throw out there, preventing you from standing up, which by the way is infinitely healthier than sitting down for your cardiovascular system, and I'm sure there's plenty of other benefits as well, but that drove me off a fucking cliff. The big item this week, however, that stood out was the arresting of a student, Ozturk, I believe is her last name, for being a very loud and proud pro-Palestinian voice on college campus. I believe it was, I'm sitting in front of a computer. Let me look her up. That way I can provide some critical context here. She's a PhD student at Tufts University. Rumesa Ozturk, graduate student at Tufts in Massachusetts, was taken into custody Tuesday by federal agents near her home. And the video, which is alarming that they busted out this move for a fucking college student, were like 4 or 5 grown men in plain clothes jumping out of unmarked cars, zero identification on them until they have hands on her, to which then one actually pulls a badge out of his jacket. Basically just kidnap her off the streets. And it looks like she's facing deportation for being such a loud and proud Palestinian voice and sort of an organizer of protests on campus. This is, full disclosure, this is as much as I know about it. I don't know what her involvement was. I don't know if she coordinated any real violence, was responsible for any real harm or damages. And if you're someone who is eligible for deportation for committing crimes, going back to what I said about meats and street takeovers last week, don't be retarded. But if you're going to be retarded, have a means to, protect yourself, sort of thing. However, in this portion, when I'm talking about the subject, I'm simply operating on the fact that she was a loud Palestinian voice on college campus, to which then she got scooped up by some government goons on the street and is now getting kicked out of the country for speaking out against what our government was doing. Fox, CNN news takes and opinions and feelings about different races and political ideologies aside, objectively, that is fucked. If the state has the ability to pluck you off the sidewalk near your house and kick you out of the country or throw you in jail for speaking out against what the state is doing, whether you're right or wrong, by the way, I don't care if she was completely wrong. Nothing she said was true that came out of her mouth. I don't care. But the fact that she was picked up and is about to get kicked out of the country for simply speaking out against what she saw the federal government she was living under doing is fucked. And especially, you add this on top of Trump's little non-committal or sort of a compliment towards the UK's proposal for us to join their Commonwealth. And then seeing what's happening over there with police arresting individuals for posting things online, facts, not even mean memes, although memes do get you arrested over there as well, but facts about, the grooming gangs, the rapes, the crime, and who's committing them over there. People just saying that they don't like seeing other countries' flags. They're getting arrested over in the UK right now. That should be very, maybe not concerning, but it should at least make you raise an eyebrow. And maybe more is going to come out about this. Maybe she was funding ISIS. Maybe she is funding Hamas. Maybe she is Hamas. I don't know. But operating strictly off of what I know today, and I have no doubt after this goes live, something's going to come out that she was running grooming gangs or funding ISIS or Hamas overseas. But this is sort of like a little thought exercise you can run with your family. Especially if they lean a certain political way now. And I bring this up now because, who's in office. I do the same thing against people who supported the last president, but we're doing this and we're setting up this thought exercise because of who the current president is and what their beliefs are. You cannot be pro this. And the first argument that's going to come back at you sort of against that is, well, she's not a citizen sort of thing. She's here on a visa. She's here on DACA, whatever it is. To which then I would say, again, operating off of what I know is, what law did she break? It appears again that she was just a loud pro-Palestinian voice. She just spoke out against the government, and the government can just decide subjectively, we don't like you, goodbye, go away forever sort of thing. That's fucked. That's really not cool. That's not chill. Freedom of speech is just completely out the fucking window. Goodbye. Nice to see you. Nice to have sort of known you. That's it. So something to watch, I think. That happened again to another. It was a man, I believe. I forget his name and where he was from, what he did. But I believe it was a very similar thing. He was just a pro-Palestinian voice. And mind you, I am not pro-Palestinian at all, in case I have to reiterate my stance here. The same applies for the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. I don't give a shit about either conflict or either side of either conflict, because guess what? It has nothing to do with me. I don't know anybody in Ukraine or Russia or Palestine or Israel or anyone in those conflicts. I don't love anyone. I don't hate anyone over there. I surely do hate their governments, though. Both sides, Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, they're all just terrible, terrible people. But as it relates to the conflicts that we are involved in and that they're involved in, I couldn't give a shit less. I'm talking about what's going on in this country right now, and it appears that the state has goons that can just scoop you up off the street if they don't like what you're saying. And that's something to watch out for, I think. And something to be prepared maybe to fight against. I don't know how, but if it's a trend that continues, if this sets the precedent, it's all under the guise of protecting against anti-Semitism. I'm not even going to get into that one. But it doesn't matter. Free speech is free speech. There's no buts in there. You either have it or you don't. And currently, it appears that we do not. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Fucked back. I took a rest. The fat ass Harley douche. Indulgences are back on the menu, lads. Trump's faith advisor is selling 7 Easter blessings. That's right, 7 Easter blessings. You can buy your way into heaven. And get this, ready? It is for the cheap and affordable low price of $1,000. That's right. At a time when eggs have never been more expensive, at a time when it's really hard to fill up your gas tank, at a time where there is an entire class of individuals who will never own property and who will rent forever, you can still get into heaven. You can buy your plot of land in God's home for $1,000 this Easter season, but you have to act fast before he is risen, or else it doesn't count. Yeah, what the fuck? This is Trump's, again, made up role, spiritual advisor, leaning on her position and her notoriety and her fame in that position to sell 7 Easter blessings as if her proximity to the president of the United States, again, the president of the United States is only somebody who has won the world's least transparent popularity contest by promising the most kickbacks to somebody that you will never know or see, basically making them an unelected official. That makes her able to sell your way into heaven. We are back into the realm. That's right. 7 tax-free Easter blessings. You better believe it, baby. I thought that was absolutely. I thought it was fake. I thought it was like an Onion post, and then I had to Google it, and then my eyes did not deceive me. It was a very real post. You get like tokens and things and stuff with it to remind you of the 7 blessings that you got. But that was pretty good. Hey, listen, I've done a lot of fucked up stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna beat around the bush there. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, $1,000 ain't that much. I'm looking at this box of kit in the middle of my room right now. There's probably 70 Easter blessings in there. I don't know. Yeah, so maybe not a bad idea. Maybe give it a shot, see what happens. Let me know if it works. God damn it. And here's something, I guess we're at the 30-minute mark. I'm getting fired up. I haven't even taken a sip of coffee. Again, going to be a short one because my back hurts and I'm gassed from the weekend. But I am now going to try, again live, to tie Black Lives Matter, Tesla, and the body positivity movement all together. And this surely won't make anybody mad. And the common thread that I'm going to tie them all together with is that the goal of each subject, their guiding principle, if you will, simply was a ruse. It was simply a sham. Black Lives Matter, pretty clear objective. I'll give them that. It's very succinct, straight to the point. I know exactly what you're here for. It had nothing to do about uplifting minorities or people of color. They came up with a great message, great branding, great propaganda, equity and all that horse shit, critical race theory and all that BS. However, nobody has benefited from them. Nobody has benefited from anything tied to it except the founders, the high-ranking members who took all of your donations, all of the reparations you paid them by lashing yourselves over the back and shaming yourselves as white people or not a part of the anti-racist group of allies. They took that money and instead of investing it in their communities, instead of uplifting the very people who their organization's name represents, they bought themselves mansions. They're no different than a government in that sense, I guess. So I'll give it up. That's, pretty solid business move on their part. They're getting ahead. But it's not about the goal. It's not about, that's right. You got to enrich yourself before you can enrich others. You got to fill your cup before you can fill others, your bucket or whatever. That I get it. No, maybe not bad. Maybe they needed a mansion first. Maybe they need Bentegas and Hellcats and everything. Ooh, probably shouldn't have said that one. They need all those things before they can then go forth and uplift their brothers and sisters. I'm going to ignore that, though. I'm going to pretend that that's not why they bought themselves a mansion. They just did it because it was never about doing all the good things in the first place. It was just about taking money, which is what most things are. So that's Black Lives Matter. Set up this front, set up this sham. We're doing all this good for this. We're good to go. Tesla, electric car, and this is mostly just going along the whole electric car vein. And I use Tesla now because of what's happening with the trend of vandalizing them, and I'll get into that too because I do believe that's retarded. You're not hurting a government official by vandalizing someone's personal property. There's something to be said if you attack a dealership. I suppose that is striving towards your goal of inflicting pain upon the government official, but don't attack individual people's property. That's just fucking retarded. Um, but you buy an electric car. All these people bought electric cars for the sake of just showing their neighbors, their family, their friends. Look at how much money I likely have, but also look at how much good I'm doing for the environment. How could you possibly drive around in that fossil fuel contraption, polluting the earth, melting the ice caps, killing the fruit bats and the polar bears? How could you possibly live with yourself? The coasts are going to be underwater within a decade, even though, again, if you look at NASA satellite footage, the coastline has not moved 1 inch. And also in certain areas, the coastline has actually been growing due to, what's the word? It'll come to me, but essentially sediments rising up from the seabed, adding to the coastline in certain areas in Africa and other islands. But we're going to ignore that fact. And global warming and all this stuff. How could you possibly not see the value and that, we need to mandate gas cars going away? We have to switch completely to electric. Forget the fact that battery mining completely rapes the earth and these cars eat up tires 40% faster than any other vehicle on the road because they're heavier, and we have no good way of getting rid of these tires. So we ship them off to the Middle East where they just burn them in the middle of a desert. Um, yeah, basically the whole entire point of the people who bought electric cars originally. Now we're going to vandalize them. We're going to burn them, further killing the environment, further proving, and they just totally going to the point that it's not about saving the earth. You did it because you wanted to just flaunt your political status. You wanted to show others around you how good of a person you are. And now that it's completely flipped on its head, now you're going to show everyone again your political values and how good you are for all of humanity by destroying people's personal property. You're retarded. Now on to body positivity. And this has been said before, this isn't my idea, mind you. I've heard it come up several times on other podcasts, but we were told how intolerant we were if we didn't pretend to think fat people were attractive and healthy. Despite the objective reality. Okay, so attraction, sure, that's subjective. But using the law of averages and also using just basic common sense, the majority of people do not appreciate an obese slob. That, from an evolutionary standpoint, would indicate to all humans that you have the inability to take care of just yourself. I cannot imagine what other aspects of your life are if that is what you look like. But again, we were told that we were intolerant pigs and just awful people by shaming a woman's body and by not saying that she's anything but perfect, healthy, gorgeous, and attractive. All of that went straight into the garbage can the second there was a needle you can put into your gut that solves that little, I guess, elephant in the room, pun intended. All of that completely disappeared. There is no body positivity. There's no more pushing it in your athletic commercials for your Nike sports bras, for Planet Fitness or anything. You see more Wegovy and Ozempic ads than any of all that. You see more people on Ozempic now that really don't need it. Now they're just walking skeletons, mind you. But now it is about stabbing yourself with that, then trying to fight this Iwo Jima-like hill of trying to get the world on board with the belief, rather, that fat people are attractive, that they're beautiful, that they're healthy. We're also going to ignore that fact that like over 90% of the COVID deaths were tied to people with who are severely obese. Completely ignore that. We're not going to help push healthy diets or anything. We're not going to help with anything else other than you stab yourself with this needle, and that's that. So body positivity, electric cars / Teslas, Black Lives Matter. That's my little thought exercise. I had fun with that one at work at my desk on a slow day. Shit, I was going to bring something up. What was that? Yeah. Oh well, it's gone. You don't support the current thing, then you're the enemy of the correct thing. Yep, you're right. God, what was that? It's gonna bother me now. This is all getting edited out, anyways. I probably can't run the Hellcat thing. That was kind of fucked up. COVID shots too. Good point. Yeah, they told you too that you wouldn't get it, and they said, you're less likely to get it. Then they said, actually, no, it's going to be less severe if you get it, and then you have to get another jab every like 2 months or something. And then all the side effects are coming out too, like that the actual manufacturers of the jabs are being forced to reveal as well. And so now it's kind of like, we're going to forget about that little thing that never really happened, I suppose. Oh yeah, the vaccine passports, that was a thing too. You had to carry your vaccine card with you. There was not enough pushback, public pushback on that, I will say. However, I'm going to leave this at, I'm not sure if you still get arrested for this, but all I'm going to say is if you were a part of the group that faked a vax card, you're on the top of the list as far as I'm concerned. That's a sort of like non-violent sort of act of protest that you do to push back against a lot of this horseshit that starts making incremental changes, right? Like, and by the way, one of the largest vac centers in our state, the state of Michigan, the TCF Center, I think it is now. It's changed its name 100 times. It's just it's called Cobo. Cobo Hall was like the largest vaccine center in the state. The Metro Detroit area. We'll call it. I'm not going to say for the whole state of Michigan. They didn't log over like half of the people they stabbed in the vaccine database. And I know this because I was dating someone at the time who went to have a surgery done when being vaccinated was required, gave her the card, gave the nurse the card, the whole thing. She walks in, she says, "Oh, you're not showing up," and said, "Oh, you got it at TCF or Cobo Hall." Like, "Oh yeah, we found that they're not really logging most people." So I was like, "Excuse me?" Um, oh yeah, so that's a good point as well. If they didn't log, half the number of people who got jabbed at Kobo, how are we also maybe flubbing the ballot numbers as well? But I've already said that elections are like the least transparent popularity contest that you win by promising the most amount of money to donors. And that's how you get on the ballot in the first place too. Um, but that, but yeah, faking vax cards, super cool. I think faking gold citizenship cards is going to be pretty sweet as well. We've already sold a good number of those. How many gold citizenship cards have we sold? Let's look that up. We sold 1,000 gold card visas, priced at $5 million each. Damn. How many people how many minority people of color, indigenous, whatever the fuck got those, you think? Probably not a lot. That's so funny. Damn, 1,000 gold card visas. It's all Russian oligarchs. I'm telling you right now, it's all Russian oligarchs, or it's just a bunch of Jews. That's equally just as likely. I'm afraid. Yeah. How should we close this one out? This was a fun one. Night vision. If you have the ability to shoot at night, do it. Very humbling again because you are relearning all of those basics as you focus on those little windows that are like an inch or two from your eyes. But very, very fun. It's very cool. It is literally a superpower. That is the only way to describe it to somebody who has never done it. And that is the only way they will describe it once they've done it. It is literally a superpower to be able to see invisible lasers and lights and use those to send metal very, very fast through someone. That's extremely cool. Do responsibly, though. Again, like I said, I probably have 70 Easter blessings in this crate of mine right here. That all of that is stuff that I needed. Just by telling my fiance, right? It's all stuff that I want, though. It's all stuff that I like. There's not many tweaks left to be made. It took a lot to get to this point, though, because everyone starts stupid and gets smarter as they go. So I can only encourage you, if you're getting started, to do your research. look at, the tactical gear forums, talk to people who know what they're doing, as intimidating as that might be. Um, and then buy once, cry once. I know that's stupid, or I know that sounds stupid. I know it's like really overplayed, but it has never been more true. Every time that you may see go out to save a buck or save a couple pennies, you're going to end up finding that there is shortcomings in that for the most part. I know I just talked about diminishing returns. However, if you, quick example, want a red dot, I don't want to spend a lot of money, so I go on Amazon and buy a red dot. If it's not a name brand, you're probably going to run into some issues with that. 99% of the time, you're going to run into issues with that very, very quickly. So definitely buy once, cry once. But don't get discouraged if you're waiting and saving up to buy that piece of gear, whether it's a red dot, whether it's a PVS 14 or duals or plate carrier or whatever the fuck it is, because something to keep in mind that we fought wars with individuals who were living in mud huts with a rusty AK-47 that was passed down as a gift from generations to generations. And we didn't necessarily win. We didn't win the last one, at least. I don't count that as a win. We went over there. We had, and mind you, the greatest military on earth with ground force, air force, everything. And then we left all that shit over there. So just a reminder, if you have a rifle with irons and a couple homies with a set of monkey bars, you can likely hold off, the opposing force, or hold them off long enough, so long as you're decently trained, to tactically acquire the gear that you so seek. So just keep that in mind when you're saving up. In the last Art and War, when they're talking about the cola challenge, there was an individual, I believe it was the retarded Indian man they were talking about, who wears the MAGA hat. This individual they know, he spends a lot of money on training every year and then never goes to the range in his free time, never dry fires. None of that training ever translates into anything. He put a red dot on his pistol. He didn't know how to zero it. He had someone zero it. He gave it back to them and said, put it back to how it was. I can't see the dot. We all know people like this. We all at least know one person like this. I know someone like this as well. And every time they come to me and they ask, should I buy X? I go, it depends. It's going to depend case by case, right? Like, I personally don't need it. And that's me sort of telling him that he personally doesn't need it. And then would that money be more useful spent towards training, towards ammo, right? Because I'm going to take someone with irons who shoots thousands of rounds a year versus a guy with 70 Easter blessings in his safe, that never shoots it, that has never tried to get better, who's put himself out there in a competition setting and really pushed himself to learn new things and improve on his own. Whether he's taking classes or not, I don't care. The guy who sets out on his own time to better himself is going to beat gear 10 out of 10 times. And I said it very early in the channel. The gear doesn't make the man and has never made the man. I could give the world's greatest rifle, the most perfectly tuned, most accurate gas rifle to, someone who has never shot a gun before. And then I can give the shittiest PSA, I can give a yeet cannon to somebody who trains all year round. And that yeet cannon is going to outshoot the most accurate rifle on the planet in the hands of somebody who has no idea what they're doing 10 out of 10 times. That gear is simply there for marginal increments once you have reached that skill threshold, right? That's the best way to think about it. That gear might help you inch out, a second or two in a drill. And seconds do matter. I'm not saying they don't, right? But you won't even get to those time savings in that drill or in that scenario if the training's not there. If you haven't built the foundation, you're not going to recognize the improvement from the gear. And so keep that in mind, the freedom fighter aspect, as well as the foundation versus the marginal improvements gained from gear, when faced with sort of a daunting, purchase. Where am I at foundationally right now? Do I need this red dot? Do I need this PVS 14, these duals, this thermal, this whatever it is? Just, I guess, some dad advice to end it on there. But that was a fun, incoherent, sleep deprived, painful episode. We'll end that one there. I'm gonna keep the live chat going. This is fun. This is good. Oh, don't even talk about inflation. I see your 10.99 chicken nuggets. Don't forget what they took from you, brother. They took away the dollar menu. They took away $5 footlongs. They took away hot and ready pizza. It's all gone. And it'll be interesting to see how the tariffs work out. But I've already talked about that. We're not going to go into the tariff chat or the inflation chat anymore. But until then, stay metal. Merch coming soon. The patches I have that I want to run with some pre-orders for hoodies and shirts should be delivered once they are delivered, and I confirm that they look good. Patches will go live again. Very limited number. Very interesting. Very cool design. And then shirts, hoodies, pre-order, some leftover slings, all going up on the site. And then that will be when we drop the next Benchmade giveaway. But until then, stay metal. Thank you.